The Galaxy Council issues a final warning. Humanity's icy response shocks all part. 1. The Judgment Chamber, the massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the nervous energy of 2,000 alien representatives. Crystalline towers stretched upward, catching light from 3 artificial suns that illuminated the proceedings. Admiral Jackson Porter stood alone on the central platform, a solitary human surrounded by the collected might of 317 spacefaring civilizations. His breathing remained steady despite the gravity of the moment. Earth's fate and humanity's future rested on his shoulders. The Council had summoned him here to deliver what they called their final warning, but Porter knew what that really meant. An ultimatum: submit or face destruction. Humanity stands accused of dangerous technological acceleration, military expansion beyond authorized parameters, and deliberate concealment of weapons development, announced High Counselor Vexillar, his translucent tentacles rippling with bioluminescent anger. For the 7th time in 50 cycles, Earth has violated containment protocols. Porter studied the alien leader, 8 feet tall with a gelatinous upper body housing multiple brain clusters, supported by 4 mechanical limbs that whirred softly as he moved. As the representative of the Muldari Collective, one of the 5 founding species of the Council, Vexillar's word carried immense weight. Holographic evidence materialized around Porteri orbital defense platforms, antimatter refineries hidden in Jupiter's clouds, quantum entanglement networks spanning Sol's Kuiper belt. The evidence was damning and comprehensive. Somehow the Council's spies had discovered projects that Earth had believed completely hidden. The Council's patience has expired, Vexillar continued, voice echoing through the chamber. This is our final warning. Humanity will submit to complete technological oversight, permanent military reduction and neural compliance monitoring or face immediate quarantine and selective orbital bombardment of Earth's military installations. The alien representatives erupted in approval, of mandibles clicking, tentacles waving, and various appendages demonstrating species-specific signs of agreement. From his position, Porter could see the representatives of the Vrel hegemony, the Council's military enforcers already calculating strike coordinates on their neural interfaces. Porter stood motionless, face expressionless as the Council voted overwhelmingly to approve the ultimatum. Only 12 species abstained and none voted against. The outcome had been predetermined. Admiral Porter, Vexillar's voice cut through the chamber as the voting concluded. As Earth's designated representative, you are granted permission to respond. Will humanity comply with these reasonable measures to ensure galactic peace? The chamber fell silent. Every eye, sensory stalk, and visual receptor focused on the lone human. By Council law, humanity had the right to formally respond before any action could be taken. Porter's face betrayed no emotion as he activated a small device on his wrist. The chamber's lights flickered momentarily as Earth's message began transmission. Counselors, Porter said with unsettling calm, Earth acknowledges your concerns. Our response is as follows. The temperature in the chamber plummeted suddenly. Several species sensitive to cold shivered as frost began forming on surfaces. This wasn't part of any standard Council procedure. For 73 years, humanity has endured your restrictions, Porter continued. We've watched as the Council permitted the Vrel to annihilate the Tarsian civilization for developing quantum communication. We witnessed as the Meridian Collective was forced into economic servitude for mining their own asteroid belt without permission. Vexillar's tentacles darkened with anger. This is not the appropriate forum to question Council decisions. Your response to the ultimatum is required, not historical revisionism. I'm getting to that, Porter replied, his breath now visible in the increasingly cold air. Humanity's formal response is simple. No. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Outright refusal was unprecedented. Even the Tarsians had attempted negotiations before their destruction. Furthermore, Porter continued as he pressed another control on his wrist device, we are implementing immediate countermeasures. Throughout the chamber, the personal devices of each Council representative suddenly activated, displaying identical messages. The crystalline walls themselves began displaying the same information. Internal Council communications. Classified military movements, financial transactions between supposedly neutral parties. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Vexillar, his mechanical limbs clanking as he moved toward Porter. How dare you breach Council security? Porter remained unmoved. We've been gathering evidence for decades. Every secret deal, every civilization your council has deliberately held back or destroyed, every manufactured crisis used to tighten your control. We have it all. And now, so does every citizen of every world under your influence. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives of minor species began confronting those from the founding worlds. Accusations flew as previously hidden information revealed centuries of manipulation and exploitation. "This is sedition," Vexlar shouted, barely audible over the growing disorder. "Guards, detain the human representative!" The elite Vrel guards moved toward Porter, weapons drawn. Porter simply smiled as his body began to shimmer slightly. "I should mention," Porter said, his voice somehow cutting through the pandemonium, "I'm not physically present. This is a quantum-entangled projection. My actual body is aboard the UES Defiance, currently in orbit around your primary defense installation in the Procyon system." Vexillar's color drained to a pale blue. Impossible. No ship could penetrate those defenses undetected. "Actually, we've had ships stationed near every major council military installation for years," Porter replied. "Your sensors never detected them because you've been scanning for the wrong signatures. Humanity developed phase shift technology 20 years ago. We exist partially out of sync with normal spacetime. On cue, the massive view screens in the chamber activated, showing hundreds of Earth vessels appearing seemingly from nowhere around key council facilities throughout the galaxy. We call this Operation Permafrost," Porter explained as the chaos intensified around him. "While complying with your minor restrictions, we developed technologies you believed impossible. We positioned our forces. We gathered evidence of your corruption. And now we're rewriting the balance of power." Vexillar, now surrounded by panicked advisors, struggled to maintain composure. "This is an act of war. The combined might of the Council will reduce Earth to ash." Porter's projection walked directly through the Vrel guards attempting to capture him, stopping inches from Vexillar. "No, Counselor. This is an act of liberation. Check your military channels. Your fleets are currently unable to engage their faster-than-light drives. Your weapons platforms are offline. We've implemented system-wide quantum field disruptions that only our ships can navigate." The frost spreading across the chamber floor reached Vexillar's mechanical legs, causing them to stutter and malfunction. A perfect metaphor for the Council's current predicament. "You have two options," Porter said, his voice now the only sound in the stunned chamber. "Recognize the sovereignty of Earth and all other species you've subjugated, or discover how cold the void of space truly is when you're on the losing side of a technological gap." Porter's projection began to fade, but his voice remained. "You have 6 hours to decide. We recommend you use that time to explain to your citizens why you've been lying to them for centuries." As Porter's image disappeared completely, the chamber temperature began to return to normal, but the chill of humanity's unexpected response remained. The Council's final warning had backfired spectacularly, and the galaxy would never be the same. Vexillar, struggling to stand as his mechanical supports regained functionality, looked out at the chaotic chamber and realized the terrible truth. The Council had gravely underestimated humanity. What they had dismissed as a primitive, aggressive species was actually a patient, calculating force that had outmaneuvered the oldest governing body in known space. And now, the countdown had begun. The Galaxy Council issues a final warning. Humanity's icy response shocks. All Part 2, Operation Permafrost Director Eliza Frost, stood in the command center buried 2 miles beneath Antarctica's ice shelf, watching as holographic displays showed the unfolding chaos across Council space. The room hummed with activity as technicians monitored quantum communications from Earth's hidden fleet. Frost's steely blue eyes revealed nothing of her thoughts as she observed the fruits of decades of preparation. "Admiral Porter's message has been delivered," announced her executive officer, Commander Thomas Reynolds. "All Council systems are reacting exactly as predicted." Frost nodded, her silver hair catching the blue light of the displays. At 67, she had devoted her entire adult life to Operation Permafrost, our humanity's secret contingency plan against the Galactic Council's inevitable attempt to fully subjugate Earth. "Activate Phase 2, she ordered. "All embedded agents commence protocol shatter." Throughout Council space, thousands of human operatives who had been living as merchants, technicians, and diplomatic staff received the encrypted command. They had integrated into alien societies, some for decades, waiting for this precise moment. Now they moved with synchronized purpose. On Darax Prime, the Council's financial center, banking systems suddenly displayed the true resource allocation numbers, revealing how the founding species had been siphoning wealth from the outer worlds. On Krell, birthplace of the fearsome Vrel hegemony, public archives suddenly contained proof that the warrior race had been genetically manipulated by the Council to serve as enforcers. On 17 educational planets, the teaching matrices now showed the unfiltered history of the galaxy, including the Council's systematic suppression of emerging civilizations. Back on Earth, Thomas Thorne, humanity's representative to the United Earth Parliament, addressed the emergency session. The Parliament chamber, built into the side of Mount Kilimanjaro, buzzed with nervous energy as delegates from every human nation awaited explanation. Distinguished delegates, Thorne began, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. For 73 years, we have maintained the appearance of compliance with the Council's restrictions. Today that masquerade ends. Massive screens displayed real-time footage from across the galaxy. War's Council ships drifting powerless in space. Alien populations gathering in streets as they digested the revelations being broadcast on their information networks. Operation Permafrost was conceived in 2187, just 5 years after the Council discovered Earth and imposed their protective restrictions on our development. Thorne continued. Our public acceptance of their limitations was always a strategic deception. He gestured to a holographic display showing a complex network of lines connecting various star systems. What the Council never suspected was our discovery of the ancient wormhole network. Gasps echoed through the Parliament chamber. While most delegates knew parts of Operation Permafrost, the wormhole network had remained classified at the highest level. This transportation system predates the Council by at least 50,000 years, Thorne explained. We found the first node in the Kuiper Belt in 2193. The network allowed us to establish colonies and manufacturing centers outside Council detection. Every restriction they imposed merely redirected our innovation into paths they weren't monitoring. In the Council chambers, now 6 hours after Admiral Porter's ultimatum, the 5 remaining High Councilors met in their secure inner sanctum. Vexlar, still struggling with the malfunctions in his mechanical supports, addressed his peers. The humans have somehow compromised our entire command structure, he admitted, his bioluminescence dimmed with stress. The Vrel fleet dispatched to the Sol system reports they cannot engage faster than light travel. Conventional weapons are non-responsive. High Councilor Draz, representing the methane-breathing Urathi Dominion, released a cloud of agitated spores. How could they have developed such capabilities under our restrictions? Our technology should be centuries beyond theirs. Evidently, our assessment was flawed, replied Councilor Trin, the insectoid leader of the Farron hierarchy. More concerning is the information they've released to our subject worlds. Already there are reports of uprisings on 37 planets. Back aboard the UES Defiance, Admiral Porter received the latest intelligence from Earth. He stood on the bridge, watching the main view screen as the massive Vrel dreadnought fleet hung immobilized near Mars orbit. The ships, each capable of reducing a continent to molten slag, had drifted helplessly, caught in humanity's quantum field disruption. Admiral, his communications officer called. We're receiving a direct transmission from the Council. They're requesting to negotiate. Porter straightened his uniform. On screen, the image of Vexlar appeared, his tentacles now a pale gray, a sign of extreme distress in his species. Admiral Porter, the Council has considered your demands. And? Porter's face remained impassive. We propose a cessation of hostilities and immediate diplomatic talks. Surely we can reach an accommodation that, Porter cut him off. This isn't a negotiation, Counselor. You had 73 years to treat humanity and other species as equals. Instead, you chose exploitation and threats. Now you face the consequences. You can't possibly maintain this disruption indefinitely, Vexlar argued, a hint of his former arrogance returning. Your technology, however impressive, must have limitations. Porter allowed himself a small smile. Actually, we can maintain it indefinitely. The quantum disruption fields are self-sustaining now, powered by the same energy that drives the ancient wormhole network. Technology your Council claimed was mythological. despite having spent centuries trying to locate it yourselves. In Antarctica, Director Frost received word of the Council's attempt to negotiate. She turned to Dr. Marcus Rivera, Earth's leading xenopsychologist, who had helped design the psychological aspects of Operation Permafrost. "They're following the expected response pattern," Rivera noted, adjusting his glasses. "First shock, then disbelief, now attempting to negotiate from a position of imagined strength." Frost nodded. "Prepare for their next move. They'll likely attempt to turn our subject worlds against us." "Already happening," Rivera replied, pointing to one of the displays. "They're broadcasting messages claiming we're attempting to establish a new tyranny, replacing their benevolent oversight with human domination." Frost's expression hardened. "Implement Response Protocol Delta. Show them what real transparency looks like." Throughout Council space, every communication device simultaneously received a simple message. The humans are offering open access to their technology and knowledge bases to all species. No restrictions, no oversight, no control. Independence and self-determination for all civilizations. Accompanying the message was access to Earth's complete unclassified scientific database. Centuries of human innovation now freely available to races that had been deliberately kept technologically dependent by the Council. In the Parliament chamber on Earth, Representative Thorne continued his address. "For generations, the Council has maintained power through artificial scarcity and technological suppression. Today we break that paradigm forever." He paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. "However, we must prepare for potential consequences. The Council still controls vast military resources. If they regain control of their systems, they may attempt desperate measures." On cue, the Parliament's strategic advisor stepped forward. "Our intelligence indicates the Council maintains a secret fleet of planet cracker missiles, designed to shatter tectonic stability. These weapons of last resort may be deployed against Earth if they believe they cannot regain control of the situation." Thorne nodded gravely. "Which is why we've already implemented the final phase of Operation Permafrost, Protocol Absolute Zero." Aboard the Defiance, Porter received a priority communication from Director Frost. "Admiral, intelligence confirms the Council has activated their deep space weapons platforms. Time to implement the contingency." "Understood," Porter replied. He turned to his executive officer. "Begin evacuation protocols for all human personnel in potentially compromised sectors. Activate the defense grid." Throughout the solar system, previously hidden defense platforms emerged from their phase-shifted state, creating an interlocking shield around Earth and its colonies. Similar shields appeared around the worlds of species who had suffered most under Council rule. A clear message that humanity was not just protecting itself, but offering protection to others. In the Council's inner sanctum, the debate had turned heated. "We must use the Omega weapons," insisted Councillor Draz. "Destroy their homeworld and this rebellion dies." Vexlar, more cautious, raised his tentacles in protest. "The humans have demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. We don't know how they might respond to such an attack." "Whatever their capabilities," countered Councillor Trin, "they cannot withstand planet crackers. No civilization has that technology." As the Council made its fateful decision, Director Frost stood in the Antarctica Command Center, receiving real-time intelligence. She turned to Commander Reynolds. "They've chosen the expected path. Prepare." The Galaxy Council issues a final warning. Humanity's icy response shocks. All Part 3. The Council-divided chaos erupted across Council space as the information released by humanity's Operation Permafrost continued to spread. On the industrial world of Taraxis, workers abandoned their posts at the massive shipyards as they learned their labor had been exploited for centuries. On Delari Prime, the religious center of the galaxy, priests confronted their high clerics with evidence that their sacred texts had been altered to encourage submission to Council authority. In the Council chambers, now secured by additional Vrel guards, High Councilor Vexlar struggled to maintain order among the representatives of 317 spacefaring civilizations. The massive chamber, once a symbol of unified galactic governance, had become a battleground of accusations and revelations. "Order. I demand order!" Vexlar's voice boomed through the amplification system, his tentacles flashing angry red. "These human allegations are cleverly constructed lies designed to fracture our unity. From the Meridian Collective section, Ambassador Lorith stood, her crystalline form catching the light. Lies? We have accessed our own sealed historical archives using the decryption keys the humans provided. The founders of this council deliberately sabotaged our early warp drive experiments, causing the great calamity that set our civilization back 3 centuries. 2 million of my people died in that accident. Similar accusations echoed throughout the chamber. The Terran Federation discovered they had been deliberately kept technologically stunted through council assistance programs that secretly introduced fatal flaws into their research. The once loyal Binary realm learned their homeworld's resources had been secretly redirected to council founder worlds for generations. Dr. Marcus Rivera watched these developments from the Antarctic Command Center, nodding with professional satisfaction. They're fracturing precisely along the historical grievance lines we predicted, he explained to Director Frost. The council propaganda that held them together for centuries is unraveling in hours. Frost studied the global tactical display. And the Vrel fleet near Mars? Still immobilized, replied Commander Reynolds. But our sensors detect they're attempting to reconfigure their drive systems to overcome our quantum disruption field. How long before they succeed? Reynolds consulted his data pad. Engineering estimates 14 hours, assuming they continue their current approach. Frost nodded. More than enough time. What's the status of the Council's response to Admiral Porter? They've ordered his immediate execution, Rivera reported with a small smile. They still don't understand that he was never physically present in their chamber. In the Council's inner sanctum, Vexillar ordered a direct attack on what he believed was Porter's location. Destroy the human vessel immediately. The UES Defiance must be eliminated before they can implement any further disruptions. A Vrel commander bowed. We have targeted the vessel with our remaining functional weapons. Firing now. On the main display, energy beams lanced out from the nearest weapons platform toward the Defiance. The beam struck the human vessel directly and passed through it without effect. Impossible, gasped Counselor Trin. Direct hits should have vaporized it. The image of Admiral Porter appeared on their screen, his expression calm. As I explained earlier, counselors, we developed phase shift technology decades ago. The Defiance exists partially out of normal space-time. Your weapons cannot touch us. Vexillar's tentacles writhed with rage. What do you want, human? State your demands clearly. We've already made our position clear, Porter replied. The Council will acknowledge the full sovereignty of Earth and all other subjugated worlds. You will relinquish control of all Enforcer fleets. You will stand trial before representatives of those you've exploited. This is absurd, Counselor Draz exclaimed. You would dismantle a system of governance that has maintained galactic peace for 2,000 years. Porter's expression hardened. You haven't maintained peace. You've maintained control through suppression, manipulation, and occasional genocide. There's a difference. As Porter continued negotiations with the increasingly desperate Council, humanity's embedded agents throughout Council space activated the next phase of Operation Permafrost. On 57 key worlds, human diplomatic cells emerged from hiding, offering direct technological partnerships to species now questioning Council authority. On the Vrel homeworld, their usually rigid military hierarchy began to fracture as lower commanders received evidence that their species had been genetically modified by the Council founders to increase aggression and obedience. The proud warriors, who had believed themselves the natural enforcers of galactic order, faced an identity crisis that paralyzed their command structure. Fleet Admiral Drex, commander of the Vrel Dreadnought fleet near Mars, found himself in an increasingly impossible tactical situation. His immobilized ships were now being surrounded by vessels from former Council allies who had broken away in the growing rebellion. His communication officer reported with alarm that 17 of his own captains were refusing orders, demanding verification that they weren't being manipulated by Council lies. Dr. Rivera had predicted this reaction with remarkable accuracy. The Vrel built their entire civilization around being the honorable enforcers of a just order, he explained to Earth's military command. Learning they were simply engineered attack dogs strikes at the core of their identity. Their psychological collapse will be swift and total. In the Council chamber, Vexillar made a final desperate attempt to regain control. Execute the human representative immediately. He ordered the Vrel guards surrounding what appeared to be Admiral Porter. The guards fired their weapons. only to watch in shock as Porter's body dissolved into a swarm of advanced nanites that quickly infiltrated the chamber systems. Screens throughout the room displayed Porter's face. "As I mentioned, Counselor, I was never physically present." Porter's voice came from every speaker. "This nanite projection served as my proxy. And now these nanites have compromised your remaining secure systems." Vexillar turned to his fellow High Counselors in panic. "The emergency protocols. Activate the planet crackers immediately." Counselor Trin attempted to access the weapons control system, only to find it non-responsive. "We're locked out. The human nanites have penetrated even the Omega-level security." Back on Earth, the Parliament continued its emergency session as representative. Thorne updated the delegates on developments across the galaxy. "The Council is fracturing, faster than even our most optimistic projections," he announced. 43 previously subjugated civilizations have already declared independence. 17 more have requested Earth's protection against potential Council retaliation. A delegate from the African Union stood. "And what of the Council's planet cracker missiles? Have they been neutralized?" Thorne's expression grew serious. "Our intelligence indicates the Council is still attempting to activate those weapons. While we've compromised their main control systems, we cannot guarantee they don't have isolated backup launch facilities." "Then we must implement Protocol Absolute Zero immediately," insisted the delegate from Greater Oceania. "We cannot risk Earth's destruction." Thorne nodded. "Director Frost has already given the order. Planetary phase shift will commence in 18 minutes. Throughout Earth's cities, citizens prepared for the unprecedented event. Decades of drills had prepared the population, but the reality of shifting an entire planet partially out of normal space-time still created widespread anxiety. In homes, schools, and public shelters, people secured themselves in designated safety zones as countdown timers displayed on every available screen. In orbit, Earth's defense fleet maintained position, ready to protect the planet during its most vulnerable momenta, the initial phase transition. If the Council managed to launch their planet crackers during that critical window, the consequences would be catastrophic. Admiral Porter, now physically aboard the actual UES Defiance hidden near Jupiter, received the final countdown alert. "All ships maintain defensive formation," he ordered. "Phase shift commences in 15 minutes. On his command screen, he could see the desperate activity at the Council's secret weapons facilities as they attempted to bypass humanity's system lockouts. "They're still trying to launch," he noted grimly. His executive officer nodded. "If they succeed, sir, then we implement the contingency," Porter replied. "The survival of Earth takes priority over all other considerations." In the Antarctic Command Center, Director Frost supervised final preparations for the planetary phase shift. Massive generators buried in strategic locations around the globe powered up, creating the quantum field that would temporarily move Earth into a parallel dimensional pocket. Technology developed through careful study of the ancient wormhole network. "All systems nominal," reported Commander Reynolds. "Planetary population secured at 98%. Remaining 2% are in transit to secure zones." Frost checked the final simulations. "And our calculations for the shift?" Dr. Rivera answered, "Triple-checked and verified. Earth will shift exactly 0.0073 degrees out of normal space-time, or enough to become untouchable by conventional weapons, while maintaining basic compatibility with our solar environment." The Galaxy Council issues a final warning. Humanity's icy response shocks, all Part 4. Protocol Absolute Zero Commander Olivia Winters stood on the observation deck of Earth's lunar defense base, watching the empty space where her home planet had been just 30 minutes earlier. Though she had helped design Protocol Absolute Zero, actually witnessing Earth shimmer and fade from normal space-time still left her awestruck. The moon, untouched by the phase shift, now orbited seemingly nothing, a celestial body circling an invisible center of gravity. "Status report," she requested, turning to her executive officer, Lieutenant James Donovan. "Phase shift stabilized at 100%, Donovan replied, checking the quantum field readings. "Earth is fully secured in the dimensional pocket. Atmospheric integrity maintained. Communications with surface installations functioning within expected parameters." Winters nodded. Her team had spent 15 years perfecting this technology, the ultimate defensive measure against the Council's planet cracker missiles. Based on discoveries from the ancient wormhole network, The planetary phase shift had been humanity's most closely guarded secret. "And the Council's response?" she asked. "Chaos," Donovan said with a tight smile. "Their command structure is collapsing. The Vrel fleet is fragmenting as individual captains choose sides between remaining loyal to the Council or joining the rebellion." Winters turned back to the view screen, which showed the space around Mars where the Vrel dreadnoughts hung immobilized. "They still have significant firepower. If they regain control of those ships, Director Frost is aware," Donovan assured her. Operation Permafrost included contingencies for this scenario. On the Council capital world of Nexera Prime, the once orderly streets had descended into riots as the subject species turned against their former rulers. The Galactic Council, which had maintained control for 2 millennia through careful manipulation and occasional displays of overwhelming force, found itself facing rebellion on hundreds of worlds simultaneously. In the secured bunker beneath the Council Tower, the remaining loyal High Councilors gathered for what might be their final meeting. Vexillar's tentacles had faded to a sickly gray as he addressed his colleagues. "The humans have achieved the impossible," he admitted, his voice lacking its usual authoritative tone. "Their phase shift technology renders conventional weapons useless against their homeworld." "We still have options," insisted Councillor Draz, releasing agitated methane spores. "The Vrel dreadnoughts can target human colony worlds. Their phase shift can only protect Earth itself." "And provoke an even more severe response," countered Councillor Trin, mandibles clicking nervously. "The humans have already demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. Escalation would be unwise." Vexillar's mechanical supports whirred as he moved to the central command console. "We have no choice. The rebellion spreads by the hour. If we do not reassert control immediately, 2,000 years of Council rule ends today." He activated the emergency protocols, bypassing the standard command chain. "All loyal Vrel vessels, this is High Councilor Vexillar. You are hereby ordered to target and destroy all human outposts in Council space. Additionally, prepare planet cracker missiles for deployment against the human colony on Mars." The order transmitted, Vexillar turned to his fellow councilors. "When Earth returns from its phase shifter, and it must eventually return, they will find their colonies reduced to debris. They will learn the consequence of defying the Council." In Antarctic Command, Director Frost received the intercepted transmission immediately. "They're targeting our colonies and outposts," she announced to her staff. Exactly as predicted, Dr. Rivera nodded. The Council's psychological profile indicated they would resort to hostage tactics once direct confrontation failed. Their entire governance model is built on fear and intimidation. Frost turned to Commander Reynolds. "Implement Response Protocol Delta 9. All ships in normal space protect civilian worlds a priority to non-human populations." Reynolds looked surprised. "Non-human populations first?" "Confirmed," Frost replied firmly. "We will demonstrate to the galaxy that humanity protects all innocent civilizations, even those who voted against us in the Council." The contrast with the Council's approach could not be clearer. Throughout Council space, thousands of human ships emerged from hidden bases and phase shift protection. Instead of attacking, they moved into defensive positions around vulnerable civilian worlds, both human colonies and alien planets, at risk of Council retaliation. Admiral Porter, coordinating from the Defiance, directed the massive operation. "All vessels maintain defensive posture only," he ordered. "Weapons authorized for intercepting Council missiles only. No direct attacks on Council or Vrel ships unless they fire first." The Vrel commanders, expecting human aggression, found themselves confused by this strategy. When a Vrel cruiser approached Mars with planet crackers armed, they discovered 3 human destroyers already in position, generating a defensive shield around the colony. Fleet Admiral Drex, still struggling to maintain control of his fragmenting fleet, received the reports with growing concern. "The humans are protecting everyone as even worlds that sided against them. My captains are questioning why we would fire on civilian populations at all." His communications officer, a younger Vrel named Kraz, looked troubled. "Sir, we've received verification that our species was genetically modified by the Council founders. The human data appears legitimate." Drex faced a crisis of conscience that was spreading throughout his fleet. The Vrel had always believed themselves to be honorable warriors enforcing a just order. The revelation that they had been engineered for aggression and compliance struck at the foundation of their society. "Stand down, planet crackers," Drex ordered finally. We will not target civilian populations, sir, his weapons officer questioned. The High Counselor's orders were explicit. I am still Fleet Admiral, Drex replied firmly, and I will not order the massacre of innocents to preserve a system built on lies. His decision rippled through the fleet, as more Vrel commanders chose to stand down rather than fire on protected worlds. The Council's military advantage was already compromised by humanity's technology, now collapsed from within. On Earth, now fully shifted into the dimensional pocket, the Parliament convened an emergency session. The chamber's screens showed the defensive operations happening in normal space as humanity's ships protected worlds throughout the galaxy. Representative Thorne addressed the assembly. Our defensive strategy is working. 27 Vrel battle groups have stood down. 43 have declared independence from Council command. Only 9 remain loyal to High Counselor Vexillar. A murmur of approval ran through the assembled delegates. Earth's strategy of protection rather than retaliation was yielding results faster than expected. And what of Earth itself? Asked the delegate from United Americas. How long can we remain phase-shifted? Thorne turned to the scientific advisor, Dr. Elaine Morgan, who stepped forward to answer. The planetary phase shift is stable, she explained. Power consumption remains within projected parameters. Theoretically, we could maintain this state indefinitely. However, she continued with scientific caution, we're in uncharted territory. While our testing on smaller objects showed no adverse effects from prolonged phase shifting, we've never shifted an entire planet before. Prudence suggests we return to normal space once the immediate threat is neutralized. In the dimensional pocket, Earth existed in a strange twilight state. The sun appeared as a diffuse glow rather than a distinct disk, and stars were smeared into streaks of light as different wavelengths interacted uniquely with the phase-shifted matter. Citizens looked up at an alien sky, simultaneously awed and unnerved by the confirmation of how advanced human technology had become in secret. Commander Winters, monitoring the phase shift from lunar base, noted something unexpected in the sensor readings. Lieutenant Donovan, are you seeing this energy pattern at the dimensional boundary? Donovan studied his console with concern. Yes, Commander. There appears to be some form of consciousness interacting with our quantum field. Consciousness? Winters questioned. That's not possible. The dimensional pocket should be empty space. Sensor confirmation verified, Donovan insisted. Something intelligent is examining our quantum field from the other side of the dimensional boundary. Winters immediately contacted Antarctic Command. Director Frost, we're detecting anomalous readings at the phase shift boundary. Preliminary analysis suggests we may have encountered a non-corporeal intelligence residing in the dimensional space we've accessed. Frost received the report with remarkable composure, though her eyes widened slightly. Record all data. Attempt non-threatening communication protocols if possible. This could be significant, Dr. Rivera looked troubled. If there are intelligences native to dimensional boundary space, our phase shift might be perceived as an invasion of their domain, or an opportunity for contact, Frost countered. Either way, we need more information. Commander Winters and her team worked frantically to establish communication with the mysterious entities. After several hours of attempting various approaches, they received a response. Not in any recognizable language, but in mathematical sequences that suggested deliberate communication. The Galaxy Council issues a final warning, humanity's icy response shocks, all Part 5. The thaw 6 months after what historians now called the Frost Ultimatum, a new interstellar order had begun to emerge from the remnants of the Galactic Council. The monolithic governing body that had controlled thousands of worlds for 2 millennia had dissolved, replaced by a more equitable organization known as the Interstellar Concordat. Admiral Jackson Porter, now serving as Ambassador Porter, stood at the viewing window of the new Concordat headquarters on neutral Centauri Prime. Behind him, representatives from over 200 formerly subjugated species engaged in open debate about trade agreements, technology sharing, and mutual defense pacts or conversations that would have been punishable by planetary bombardment under the old regime. Quite a change in 6 months, observed a familiar voice. Porter turned to find the diminished form of former High Counselor Vexillar approaching, his once vibrant tentacles now a permanent pale gray. The mechanical supports that had once given him an imposing presence now simply kept him mobile, a constant reminder of his fall from power. Counselor, Porter acknowledged with a respectful nod. Or should I say Representative Vexillar now? Representative is accurate, Vexillar confirmed, his voice lacking its former authority. The Moldari Collective has appointed me to speak for them in this new arrangement. A gesture of reconciliation, they claim, though I suspect they simply wish to keep me where they can watch me. Porter allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy has changed rapidly. Adaptability serves us all. Vexillar's upper body rippled, the equivalent of a sigh in his species. I still don't understand why Earth showed such unrestraint. You could have annihilated your opponents. The Council would have in your position. That's precisely why we didn't, Porter replied. We wanted to demonstrate a different approach to power. Breaking the cycle of domination was as important as securing our independence. Vexillar moved closer to the window, watching the proceedings in the main chamber. Your Dr. Rivera explained it as calculated mercy, a fascinating psychological strategy. By protecting even those who voted against you in the Council, you created goodwill where none existed before. It wasn't just strategy, Porter corrected. Humanity has a long, painful history of conflicts on our homeworld. We've learned that how you win matters as much as winning itself. On Earth, the changes were equally profound. The United Earth Parliament had expanded its chambers to include ambassadors from 50 previously isolated species seeking alliance with the civilization that had broken the Council's grip. The Antarctic Command Center, once Earth's most secret installation, now served as a hub for technological exchange between dozens of civilizations. Director Eliza Frost, still overseeing the transition from military operation to peaceful cooperation, walked alongside Dr. Marcus Rivera through the bustling corridors of the facility. The Taraxis engineers have fully integrated their propulsion technology with our phase shift systems, Rivera reported, reviewing his datapad. Combined, they've improved efficiency by 30%. Frost nodded approvingly. And the Meridian Collective? Their crystalline computing architecture has revolutionized our quantum communications. We can now maintain stable links across 17 sectors simultaneously. These technological exchanges represented a fundamental shift in philosophy. Under the Council, advanced technology had been restricted, compartmentalized, and often deliberately sabotaged when shared with lesser species. The new Concordat operated on principles of open exchange, with each civilization contributing its unique innovations for mutual benefit. In medical centers across human space, Dr. Rivera's cultural integration teams helped formerly subjugated species adapt to their new independence. Centuries of Council propaganda had left many civilizations uncertain how to function without external direction. The psychological conditioning was more extensive than we initially realized, Rivera explained to a group of human and alien medical professionals. Many species were subtly modified to accept Council authority as natural and inevitable. Breaking these patterns requires patience and consistent positive reinforcement of autonomous decision-making. The Varel, former enforcers of Council will, faced perhaps the most challenging adjustment. Learning they had been genetically engineered for aggression and obedience triggered a society-wide identity crisis. Fleet Admiral Drex had emerged as a reformist leader, guiding his people toward a new role as peacekeepers rather than conquerors. Our strength can serve rather than dominate, Drex told his officers aboard his flagship, now part of the Concordat's Joint Defense Fleet. We were created as weapons, but we choose now to be shields. Among the most remarkable developments came from the dimensional entities liberated during Earth's phase shift. These ancient intelligences, who called themselves the Architects, established their primary interface in a dedicated facility beneath Mount Kilimanjaro. Representative Thomas Thorne served as humanity's primary liaison to the Architects, whose non-corporeal nature required specialized communication systems. Through these interactions, uncomfortable truths about galactic history emerged. The original Council founders encountered our wormhole network approximately 23,000 of your years ago, explained the primary architect through its interface. When they discovered we would not give them control of the technology, they developed a method to trap us in the dimensional boundary and seized our transportation hubs. Thorne absorbed this information with growing concern. And they based their entire technological civilization on your stolen innovations? Correct, the architect confirmed. What your people accomplished in 73 years of restricted development took the Council founders nearly 5,000 years. Your species' natural innovation rate is exceptional. This revelation explained the Council's paranoid restriction of emerging civilizations. They had feared someone might independently develop the technologies they had stolen, exposing their original crime. The architects expressed particular interest in humanity's phase shift technology. Your approach to dimensional manipulation is different from our seer, more elegant in some ways. Your species developed in 70 years what took us millennia. In the new Concordate chamber on Centauri Prime, Director Frost addressed the first General Assembly of 227 member species. The massive hall, designed with environmental accommodations for all known sentient biochemistries, hummed with translation devices and atmospheric adjusters. 6 months ago, Earth faced what the Council called their final warning, Frost began, her voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the chamber. Today we gather not as rulers and subjects, but as equals with shared purpose. She gestured to the architect interface floating beside her podium. We've learned that the galaxy's history is more complex than any of us knew. The Council's founding was built on imprisonment and theft-arose crimes concealed for 23,000 years. Murmurs spread through the assembly as many species still struggled to accept this revelation. The Council's stability, however oppressive, had been the only political reality most civilizations had ever known. Earth's response was calculated not just to ensure our survival, Frost continued, but to correct a historical injustice none of us knew existed. The cold calculation of Operation Permafrost has given way to the spring of new possibilities. Former Councillor Vexlar, watching from his delegation's section, had to acknowledge the effectiveness of humanity's approach. Instead of using their technological superiority to establish a new dominance, they had deliberately created a system where power was distributed among many civilizations. We could have become the new tyrants, Ambassador Porter had explained to him, but that would have simply continued the cycle. Real security comes from stable relationships, not fear and control. As Director Frost concluded her address, humanity revealed one final surprise. A technology freely shared with all Concordate member species, limited phase shift capability for civilian vessels, allowing access to resources in dimensional pockets previously unreachable. This technology will end resource scarcity that has driven conflict for centuries, Frost announced. Energy and mineral shortages need no longer cause competition between our worlds. The reaction from the assembled representatives was stunned silence, followed by thunderous approval. Under Council rule, such technology would have been restricted to founding members. Earth's willingness to share its most advanced innovations demonstrated a fundamentally different philosophy of governance. In the months that followed, the ripple effects of humanity's icy response to the Council's warning continued to transform the galaxy. Former enemies became trading partners. Previously isolated species contributed unique scientific perspectives. The architects shared insights into dimensional physics that opened entirely new fields of study. On Earth, Admiral Porter walked with Dr. Rivera through Central Park in New York, one of many sites now hosting diplomatic missions from across the galaxy. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Porter asked, watching a group of meridian crystalline,